Welcome to Leading Beyond Limits, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary journeys and insights of remarkable leaders who have pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Your host, Angel Radcliffe, who is a digital transformation leader, author, speaker, and financial educator, will lead each episode and dive deep into the stories, strategies, and philosophies that have empowered these exceptional individuals to lead, inspire, and achieve beyond the ordinary. We're about to embark on a journey of discovery and inspiration, and together, we'll learn what it takes to lead beyond limits. So grab your cape, or at least your favorite coffee mug, because we're about to unravel the extraordinary tales of trailblazers who've turned impossible into I'm possible. Let's get started.
Imagine you just spent, 50 hours and a massive chunk of your quarterly budget training your top performer.
Right, a huge investment.
Exactly. They're finally operating at absolute peak efficiency. You feel like you've won. And then they walk into your office and hand in their notice.
Ouch. Yeah, that is the worst feeling.
Right. They are taking all that development to another opportunity.
So, did you just waste company resources, or did you just succeed at leadership?
That's the ultimate tension right there.
It really is. And today, we are looking directly at you, sitting in the leadership seat, navigating that exact kind of tension. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are diving into a brief but incredibly weighty leadership micro-scenario from Leading Beyond Limits. And at the very center of this scenario is a phrase you have probably heard 1,000 times. Loyalty is a two-way street.
Yeah, it's basically corporate wallpaper at this point, right? Completely.
Yeah.
But our mission today isn't to give some peppy management seminar. We are going to look at the massive psychological discomfort hidden right beneath those words. We're going to look at the risk and the heavy responsibility of leading human beings when certainty is just, incomplete. Okay, let's unpack this.
I love that setup because the phrase itself, we see it, we nod, and we continue our day. But the scenario forces a confrontation with the behavior we actually default to under pressure.
Yes.
The text opens with a very specific warning. It says, you cannot demand loyalty from a team you treat as a commodity.
Which is such a strong word, commodity.
It is. It points directly to the danger of treating your people as just another line item on a spreadsheet. We have to analyze the cognitive mechanics of why experienced, intelligent leaders fall into this trap.
Because the word commodity carries so much weight. A barrel of oil is a commodity.
Right.
A server rack is a commodity. They are interchangeable, they have a highly specific, measurable output, and they require zero emotional maintenance.
Exactly. Zero.
But here is where we need to look at the behavioral economics of leadership, rather than just, psychoanalyzing a leader's fears. I refuse to believe leaders wake up and maliciously decide to dehumanize their teams.
No, of course not. It's not cartoon villainy.
Right. Instead, think of it like this. Consider the spreadsheet as an instrument panel in an airplane. When you are flying through heavy turbulence, volatile markets, aggressive competitors, crushing quarterly expectations, that instrument panel is the only thing giving you hard data.
Yeah, it tells you your altitude.
It tells you your speed. It feels entirely rational to lock your eyes on the panel and just ignore the cabin. Do leaders retreat to the line item mentality simply because managing a position feels safe and measurable?
Yeah, and devoid of the messy emotional risks of human relationships. That analogy is perfect because that misapplication of an operational tool to an emotional ecosystem, that's where the friction begins.
It makes sense though, right?
It does. A dashboard tells you the speed of the aircraft, but it cannot tell you if the wings are experiencing metal fatigue. When leaders are under immense pressure, the cognitive load is just staggering.
Oh, for sure. You're just trying to survive the day.
Right. And the human brain naturally seeks a reduction in variables to manage that load. A spreadsheet reduces a highly complex human being into a single static metric. It gives the leader the illusion of complete certainty.
The illusion. Yeah, that's the key word.
Exactly, because human beings, by their very nature, introduce uncontrolled variables into an environment. They have evolving career aspirations, they experience burnout, they have friction with their peers. Managing a position through a spreadsheet is infinitely easier than leading a person.
because it's a way of managing the risk of the relationship by practically eliminating the relationship.
Yes.
The leader is essentially saying, I have so much ambiguity in the market, I cannot tolerate ambiguity in my team, so I will only look at the numbers.
What's fascinating here is that the demand for absolute loyalty almost always comes from the leader who is staring the hardest at the spreadsheet.
Wait, really? The ones looking at the numbers the most?
Yeah. They engineer an environment based entirely on math and metrics, effectively removing their own emotional risk from the board. But then, when a crisis hits, they look up and expect their team to offer this fierce, unwavering devotion.
Wow. Yeah, the contradiction there is glaring.
Yeah.
And it has to be entirely visible to the people doing the actual work.
Oh, they see it immediately. You are asking for an asymmetrical emotional investment. A leader projects total detachment to protect their own cognitive bandwidth, right? And to insulate themselves from accountability. Yet they demand total attachment from the team to protect the mission.
That is wild.
And the scenario directly addresses the fallout of this posture. If a leader hides behind the metrics, the team instantly senses that emotional vacuum. The text reads, if your team feels like they are just another line item on a spreadsheet, they will treat your mission with the same level of detachment.
So it's just mirroring. If a leader is just trying to manage risk, why does it instantly neutralize the mission for everyone else? How does that actually play out in practice?
Well, think about human nature. We mirror the environment we are placed in.
Right. Let's look at a random Tuesday afternoon during a missed deadline. The leader walks into the room, super stressed about the numbers. They don't ask what obstacles the team faced.
Nope.
They don't ask how the team is holding up under the pressure. They just ask, why are we underperforming the projection?
Yeah, just looking at the gap in the math.
Exactly. And by focusing exclusively on that gap, the leader sets the terms of engagement. They are signaling that the relationship is strictly transactional. Like, we are exchanging your output for this paycheck. Nothing more.
And game theory tells us exactly how a rational actor responds to a purely transactional environment.
Which is what?
The optimal move is to optimize for the contract and nothing more. The team mirrors the leader's exact posture. If you treat me as a contracted commodity, I will deliver the minimum viable product required to satisfy the contract.
Oh, wow. So the mission, that grand vision the company talks about in all those all-hands meetings, it just becomes completely hollow.
Completely. The leader's pursuit of safety, their retreat into the risk-free certainty of the spreadsheet, it actually triggers the exact outcome they were trying to avoid. They neutralize the discretionary energy of the entire team.
Discretionary energy, I love that term. That's the late nights, the creative problem solving in the shower, the willingness to cover for a struggling colleague.
Yeah, you cannot mandate that kind of energy.
Right. You can't put it in a job description. It is volunteered. But why would a team volunteer their deepest discretionary effort into a system that only values their baseline metric output?
They won't.
They simply reflect the leader's emotional reality back at them. Detachment breeds detachment. The mission dies, not because of a lack of technical skill, but because of a massive deficit in mutual emotional investment.
Which forces the conversation toward the alternative presented in the scenario. And this alternative, it requires stepping directly out of the measurable safety of the instrument panel and into a space of extreme vulnerability.
Okay, I'm listening.
The scenario directs the reader, invest in the person, and you won't have to worry about the position.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to push back hard on that phrase.
Go for it.
Invest in the person sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
It is the kind of phrase people put on LinkedIn to get applause, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But if we're talking to experienced leaders dealing with actual P&L responsibilities, we have to admit how risky that is.
It's terrifying for them.
Yeah. What if you have a brilliant structural engineer and you realize their true passion is moving into project management, which doesn't help your department's output this quarter at all?
Right.
If you invest in their broader growth, you might be actively funding their departure from your team. If I invest in the position, I'm protecting the company's immediate capability. But if I invest in the person, I am taking a massive gamble with no guaranteed ROI. Isn't that the exact lack of certainty leaders are terrified of?
It is a profound gamble. I completely validate that. That is the absolute core of the leadership tension here. But that assumes the ultimate goal of leadership is risk elimination.
Right, which it isn't.
Exactly. The tension we are exploring is that real leadership is the exact opposite. It is the responsible navigation of risk. The spreadsheet promises a guarantee. If input A happens, output B results.
Nice and clean.
Right, but investing in a human being means accepting the fundamental reality that you cannot control the outcome. You are acknowledging their agency. When you invest in the person, you are operating with partial clarity. You do not know if they will stay for 10 years or leave in 10 months.
Wow.
And that lack of a tactical guarantee is precisely what separates a leader from a manager.
So the hesitation we see in leaders isn't about, like, lacking the budget for training or not knowing what books to recommend.
Not at all.
The hesitation is the heavy, uncomfortable realization that you have to offer the investment without any contractual guarantee that it will pay off for you personally.
Yes.
You are building capacity in them, knowing that the act of building it is what creates the conditions for loyalty, even if that loyalty eventually leads them to outgrow the position you currently need them to fill.
Consider the alternative, though.
Yeah.
If you only train someone so they can perform their current position marginally better for your immediate benefit, they know it.
Oh, yeah. People aren't stupid.
Exactly. It is entirely transparent.
Yeah.
They feel the transactional nature of that so-called investment. It isn't an investment in them, it is an investment in your own metrics. It's optimizing the commodity. But if you invest in the person, their critical thinking, their resilience, their broader career trajectory, you are signaling that their value is not tethered entirely to their utility to you. Ironically, letting go of the desperate need to secure the position creates the very psychological safety where the person actually wants to stay.
It is the ultimate paradox of leadership. The tighter you grip the metrics to force retention, the faster you accelerate their detachment.
Exactly.
The more you let go of the guarantee and invest in their independent growth, the deeper their roots go into the culture you're building. But you have to take the first step. You have to step into the discomfort of the unknown and act before you have all the data.
And that abstract tension brings us to the scenario's final demanding question. It asks, what is the one thing you do intentionally to show your team you value their growth beyond their output?
So what does this all mean for you sitting in the leadership seat right now?
This raises an important question regarding that phrase, beyond that output, because the weight of that sentence rests entirely on the word intentionally.
Intentionally.
To act intentionally beyond output requires a deliberate uncoupling of development from immediate corporate utility. It forces a leader to stand fully visible to their team, stripping away the armor of metrics, and carry the emotional accountability of genuine human development.
It's not just a checklist.
No, we're not talking about checking a box on an annual review form or sending them a generic leadership article. Intentionality means observing the friction they are experiencing, understanding the gap between where they are and where they are capable of being, and stepping into that gap with them.
Let's paint a picture of what that actually looks like in practice.
Yeah.
Without turning this into a rigid step-by-step framework. Because it looks like sitting down in a one-on-one meeting and physically closing your laptop.
Yes, such a simple but powerful move.
Right. It looks like ignoring the KPI dashboard for 30 minutes and asking a question that has absolutely zero bearing on this week's deliverables.
Like what?
Like asking them how they are managing the cognitive load of a new project, asking them what aspect of their job currently drains their energy the most, and brainstorming how to restructure their workflow, not to increase their output, but to preserve their well-being. It is a quiet, radical act of prioritizing the human engine over the exhaust fumes of production.
I love that phrasing. And it requires a fundamental shift in identity. The leader must transition from viewing themselves as a manager of risk to a custodian of potential.
Custodian of potential, that's good.
It means recognizing that the people reporting to you are not just assets to be leveraged. They are individuals entrusted to your care for a specific season of their career. Facilitating their growth is not a strategy to make your numbers look better.
Right.
Facilitating their growth is the job itself. When you value someone beyond their output, you are caring about their trajectory, their ability to navigate conflict, and their intellectual curiosity, even if those skills don't immediately move the needle on your quarterly report.
That is such a heavy realization. Because if everything you do for a team member is ultimately tethered to their output, like if you only send them to a seminar so they can learn a new software that makes your department 5% faster, you are still treating them as a commodity.
You are.
A highly polished, exceptionally well-trained commodity, but a commodity nonetheless. You are just sharpening the tool. Valuing them beyond their output means developing the mind that wields the tool.
And the discomfort of that realization is why Leaders frequently delay this kind of engagement. It isn't a lack of information. It is a profound discomfort with visibility.
Yes, being seen as a human.
Exactly. When you engage with a team member on that deep developmental level, you cannot hide behind your title. You cannot hide behind the company policy. You are exposed as a human being trying to guide another human being through complex professional terrain. You are making decisions with incomplete information, relying entirely on your judgment, your presence, and your self-trust.
We've covered a tremendous amount of psychological ground here today, and we've navigated some incredibly dense leadership tension.
We really have.
We looked at the powerful gravitational pull of the spreadsheet, that instrument panel that stressed leaders lock onto when they want to avoid the messy, uncontrolled variables of human relationships. We examined how treating people as interchangeable line items is rarely an act of malice, but rather a misapplication of an operational tool, an attempt to find certainty in a volatile environment.
And we also explored the immediate, devastating consequences of that retreat, the mirror effect.
Yeah.
When a leader signals that the environment is purely transactional, the team rationally responds by withdrawing all discretionary energy. Detachment is met with detachment, and the mission is hollowed out from the inside.
And finally, we leaned into the demanding alternative the scenario presents. The quiet courage required to abandon the guarantee of the spreadsheet and invest in the person. We acknowledged that it is a massive gamble, that there is no guaranteed return on investment, and that true leadership requires making these decisions in a space of partial clarity.
Right, standing in that unknown.
It is about trusting yourself enough to build capacity in others without demanding a contract that they will stay to benefit you.
It replaces the artificial comfort of data with the demanding, often messy reality of genuine human connection and accountability.
As you look at your calendar tomorrow, as you prepare for your one-on-ones, keep reflecting on the friction we've pulled from this scenario. Think about the spaces where you might be seeking the safety of the metric over the complexity of the relationship. Look at the people sitting across from you and ask yourself if you are optimizing them as a commodity or developing them as a person.
It's a question every leader needs to sit with.
Definitely. We will leave you with this final lingering thought to mull over on your own. When you catch yourself hesitating to fully invest in someone's growth, when you find yourself retreating to the safety of the math, are you actually protecting the mission, or are you simply protecting yourself from the discomfort of not having all the answers? Keep diving deep, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning into another inspiring episode of Leading Beyond Limits. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to hear more from our incredible guests, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. And if you have a remarkable leader in mind who you'd like to hear on our show or any questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Remember, leadership knows no bounds, and with the right insights and determination, you too can lead beyond limits. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and leading with purpose.